Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we're here with our first guest this morning, and you know him. He's America's Patriot, I always say, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Welcome back, sir, to Veronica Live.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Veronica. Thank you for having me.
Well, John and I were just talking this morning. The world is upside down, and we have so many news stories to talk with you about. And the first one, since you are a man fighting the fight in Texas, is that border bill this week. Dead on arrival, and thank goodness. So I wanted to hear your takeaways from that awful bill they were trying to push forward.
Well, I think it's just a shame that people in Washington, D.C. believe that they have to do something when all they have to do is to abide by and uphold the laws that we already have. The reason why we have a wide open border and 8 to 9 to 10 million people have entered this country illegally is because in January of 2021, upon assuming office, Joe Biden issued unconstitutional executive orders that reversed everything that had secured our border. He has violated his constitutional oath and duty and responsibility. So the onus lies clearly on Joe Biden, on the Biden administration, if they want to secure the border. And it is absurd for him to say that he needed border legislation to be passed so that he could secure the border. No, he undid the border himself, and he is not doing anything to correct that. And it's just perplexing to me how some Republicans will continue to, fall for the line of the Democrats, be it Chuck Schumer or Joe Biden or whomever, and put themselves on the blame line instead of coming together and saying, here are the series of executive actions that Joe Biden took that opened up our border, that made us now susceptible to drug trafficking by way of fentanyl, human and sex trafficking, and now terrorist trafficking, because we know that we have terrorist cells that have come across that border.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, Colonel West, this week I heard a story that we know that 25,000 Chinese have come through the border. Who are these Chinese men? 25,000 is a huge number. I'm like petrified.
Yeah, well, you've got, tens of thousands of single military-age males, Chinese, that have infiltrated this country, and they're not coming here seeking asylum. There is no way that you can tell me that amount of number of single military-age males could come out of China with briefcases full of cash, because you got to think about it. You're not rowing a boat from China to the Gulf of Mexico. So obviously you're taking, airplanes, flights, and you got to pay the cartels to bring you across, and you got to come through multiple different countries. Xi Jinping is not allowing that to happen without knowing exactly what he's doing. And furthermore, it's not just that number of single military-age males. It's those that are coming from Venezuela, those that are coming from, terrorist countries on the terrorist watch list. And that's being allowed to happen here in the United States of America. So again, this border security legislation would not have stopped that. As a matter of fact, the absurdity of it was to say that, we're going to allow 5,000 in each day. So I guess if you're 5,001, you just take a number and you just wait to come in the next day.
Wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, until tomorrow.
So Colonel West, what was going on with Senator Langford trying to negotiate this deal? And they seem to be shocked, the Republicans in the Senate seem to be shocked at the pushback from the normal everyday Republicans out there, and probably most Americans actually, about what was in this bill and what they were going to do with it. They seem to be surprised by it.
Yeah, I can't explain it. I went into Congress with James Langford back in 2011 in the House of Representatives, and I don't know if he's just completely lost touch. I know that the Oklahoma State GOP has censured him because of his push for this border security legislation. If you come down here, you'll see exactly what is going on. And when again, what undid the border? It was not, legislation. All we need is for the reversal of Joe Biden's executive actions. So I just don't understand why Republicans always seem to fall into the trap of the Democrats. And now what do you hear them saying? Well, the border would be secure except for those pesky little Republicans that don't want to pass border security legislation. Well, first and foremost, I thought Alejandro Mayorkas said that the border was secure. So if the border is secure, why do we need border security legislation? So it's just a dog chasing its tail, and Republicans have to stop being part of this kabuki dance.
Well, I
Well,
think even more fundamental to that is the fact that we have laws, they won't enforce them. What makes Republicans in the Senate or and particularly the House even think that they're going to pass more laws, and that all of a sudden the Biden people are going to have an epiphany and start enforcing the law?
Well, they're not, and as a matter of fact, that border security legislation gave the president all types of loopholes not to abide by it. I mean, this whole number of 5,000 was, very iffy. Is not going to do anything as far as the deportations. How would that border security legislation protect the woman who was, seen on the cover of the New York Post being dragged down the street by some, illegal immigrant trying to take her cell phone? How is that going to correct the issue of illegal immigrants beating up police officers and then being released without bail and finally being apprehended in Arizona? So, no, the Constitution is very clear that it says that the United States, which means the federal government, is supposed to protect every state in the union from invasion. That's Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. Joe Biden is violating his oath to the Constitution to uphold our laws, and really that's a treasonous action that he has done.
Well, the question, though, that keeps coming forward now is, why is New York Mayor Adams is part of the problem? Now he's offering $53 million in incentives of you get a little credit card. I'm sick, Colonel West. I mean, because it's like Santa Claus up in New York now for 400 families.
Well, think about, the homeless and jobless veterans that we have, and they're not getting any debit card. But you know that you're in trouble when rapper 50 Cent or 50 or whatever he goes by, when he says, Mr. Mayor, please explain this policy and program to me. So when you have someone like that is calling you out, the everyday American does not understand where this comes from. And again, these are taxpayer funds that are being used to provide to people, as we just said, single military-age males and others that are coming into this country illegally. I mean, go figure. But yet you're telling us that we need border security legislation which says we'll just slow it down to 5,000 a day. Well, 5,000 last time I checked, 365 days a year. That's a pretty big number that you're going to still allow people to come into the country illegal, and then ask the honest, everyday American taxpayer to fund that. This is absurd. It's ludicrous. And the whole reason why Democrats are trying to put Republicans on the blame line for this is that illegal immigration, the border, is the number one issue going into this 2024 election cycle.
Well, and Biden came out this week and said it was a Trump, caused by Trump and the MAGA folks. And again, I was ill. But fast forward to the DOJ report that, said that he's an old man and, we're not going to charge him with anything. He gets a pass. Yeah. And then the press conference, that was the worst press conference I've ever seen, defending his mental acuity. You
couldn't remember who the president of Egypt was.
It's a guy in Mexico,
Everything about it. I mean, it's the first time, though, I was excited about the press. They had a little bite to them, finally, in his face. So what? How did you see it, Alan?
Well, think about how incredibly the hypocrisy of the whole thing. We were told that Donald Trump was incompetent. Donald Trump was unfit. Donald Trump was crazy. We needed to institute the 25th Amendment to get Donald Trump out of office. But now all of a sudden we have a president that talks to French presidents who have been dead for 30 years. And now we have a report that tells us that this guy is unfit to stand trial. And by the way, understand that he did have classified documents illegally. He has no right to have classified documents. He was a senator, he was a vice president. You do not have that authority afforded to you. So he's guilty. That's what it comes out. But he's too old, he's too unfit for us to have a trial. Well, if he's unfit to go through a trial, how can he be fit to be the president of the United States of America? And again, how stupid it is that you actually go up there and try to defend your mental acuity, and you can't remember the difference between the president of Mexico and the president of Egypt. So you just put a nail in your own coffin. The Democrats are in a tough way to go, and so Where are they talking about the 25th Amendment right now? Now, the country does not need a President Kamala Harris, but
Oh my gosh.
this is the dire straits that we're in. So I do not think that Joe Biden will be their candidate. They will do something come their convention later on, July or August, with their super delegates. But really and truthfully, John, Veronica, this is senior abuse. And you
Yes,
would
I
think
agree.
that Jill Biden would say, hey, look, I can't allow this to happen to my husband anymore. But obviously she cares more about her position than about his health.
Very
I'm
true.
just curious what your opinion is. You know, here you have Kamala Harris, I call her Kamala the Clown, and she comes out and defends how vigorous he is and all this stuff, and it's like, I just cringe. But, from a power politics standpoint, this would have actually been a perfect move for her to dump him and under the 25th Amendment take over. I'm just curious, is she that weak politically, or are the Obama forces really the ones driving the train?
Well, everybody knows the Obama forces are driving the train. This is Barack Obama's third presidential term. Why would you stay close to Washington, D.C.? Valerie Jarrett is still there. They're running things out of their mansion. I'm sure they got a bunker that's down in the basement, 3 levels down or something. They're calling the shots, and they know that they cannot be successful with Kamala Harris there, and she wouldn't even be a good puppet. It would just cause chaos all across the globe if all of a sudden you push Joe Biden aside. So what they're trying to do is limp their way to the convention and then try to see what type of levers they can pull to revamp what their ticket will be going into 2024 cycle.
Well, and I'm sure, Colonel West, you watched the Tucker Putin interview and then the lead up to the Tucker interview. He was a traitor. How dare he? And John and I were talking because, we read news as you do 24/7, and all the news as of late has been, Putin's on his deathbed. Well, he looked pretty he was kicking during this interview. 2 hours, a lot of it was a historical take on Russia's history, but how did you see this whole interview? Because he said at one point that, if we stop giving Ukraine arms, that this war could end. So
that's not true. That's not true. I mean, the bottom line is that Vladimir Putin is taking advantage of the weakness of being at the Obama administration and the Biden administration. During the Obama administration, he came in and took portions of eastern Ukraine, and then, of course, took the Crimea, and Barack Obama sent shoes and MREs. During the Trump administration, guess what? We had a tough foreign policy. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump took out some 200 members of the Wagner group, which is his paramilitary group in Syria. You didn't hear a peep. You didn't see any more encouragement. Then Joe Biden comes in, and then he sees the weakness, and he continues on. So Vladimir Putin, remember, this guy's former KGB. He is a great strategic propagandist. I will give him that. He knows how to manipulate people. And so he knows that he wants Ukraine back, and he sees this as a window of opportunity. So it has nothing to do about NATO. It has nothing to do about anything but what Vladimir Putin said his greatest disappointment of the 20th century was, and that was the collapse of the Soviet Union. So he would like to restore it. He's a vile, evil dictator, and that's just the bottom line.
And what about his comments about the CIA took out the Nord Stream?
Well, show me the facts of that. I don't. You can go out there and say all the things that you want, but and what I would really want to say was, why would Joe Biden shut down the Texas exportation of liquefied natural gas? See, that's the real questions we should be asking here is, why would you undermine our own oil and natural gas capabilities and capacities and the ability to export that so that we can cut off Russia? The number one thing that we could be doing to undermine Russia, to Iran, to China, all of them, is restore our energy independence and basically our energy dominance.
It's an interesting point because you take the big picture of all this stuff. It's you have the war going on. We're sending these billions and billions to Ukraine, not only in weapons but also administrative support, welfare support, all kinds of stuff.
This is wrong.
Right, and then same thing in the Middle East. We're sending all this money to Israel, and we're sending all this money to the Palestinians, and it's crazy. Then we're sending money to Putin, via the gas, the liquid LNG, because we're forcing other countries to buy from Russia. So they're getting money to fund their war, and it's like we're funding both sides of the war. And then blow everything up, and then we're going to come in and pay to rebuild everything again. It's like some kind of insanity out there.
No, you're wholeheartedly correct, and one of the things that we should not be funding the quote unquote Palestinians who are just nomadic Arab Muslims in the Middle East, because what they do is they take that money and they fund it toward Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, all the other Islamic terrorist organizations. And truly, you're aiding and abetting, you're helping Iran in their efforts. And again, go back to looking at how we had the sanctions against Iran that we were enforcing. And you did not hear about terrorist activities. As a matter of fact, what they were trying to do is they had to have lemonade stands and bake sales to try to raise money during the Trump administration. And now they're flush with cash because, again, our stupid oil and gas, policies. And we're not enforcing those sanctions against Iran. So you're right. This Biden administration is doing everything that is possibly wrong. They're dropping hand grenades on themselves. But again, this is what Barack Obama wanted. This is the guy that invited the Muslim Brotherhood to be front row center when he gave his speech at the University of Cairo back in 2009. He, sent pallets of cash to Iran in the middle of the night in an unmarked airplane. So this is why we see all of this chaos and turmoil. And how funny it is, because coming back to Trump again, he was the guy who was supposed to start World War III. But yet we did not have all of these conflicts, all these flashpoints around the globe. But now we do with, the guy that talks to the dead French president.
It's really interesting, the Republican chicken hawks out there, that want to get, inflame the global war situation, for Nikki Haley being a good example of that. Of the armchair warriors that don't put anything on the line to, it's easy to say, hey, let's go blow this up, but then they're the ones that don't have to pay the price.
One of your recent... Go ahead,
if I could, real quick, what I will tell you is that, you don't have to go around blowing things up, but there are certain targets that you can eliminate. When Donald Trump took out General Soleimani, who was the head of the Quds Force, Iran got the message. When we decimated ISIS and we took out al-Baghdadi, the Islamic jihadists, they got the message. When the Taliban knew that we will talk about a conditional withdrawal out of Afghanistan, not a time-based, they got the message. And they understood that if we do something, screwy, Donald Trump and this administration will come down on us. That's peace through strength. And that's that's the policy we need to get back to, instead of this compromise, appeasement, negotiation, acquiescence. When you send Tony Blinken across the globe to represent you, you're conveying weakness.
Very true.
You mean $100 million worth of missiles and 83 strikes on a bunch of empty warehouses didn't send a message? Isn't that wasn't that what Joe Biden was trying to do?
Especially 10 days after the American soldiers were killed, and you keep saying, now if you don't clean up your room, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to get you, and I'm going to get you tomorrow if you don't clean up your room. Now clean up your room. Well, I mean, that's basically what we did. That's poor parenting.
I was going to say bad parenting for sure.
So speaking of parents, what do you make of the Lloyd Austin investigation? I just read it had been, the Pentagon concluded their investigation, which it's so absurd. It's not. It's funny, but it's not. Their investigation into him not reporting to the president that he was going to undergo surgery and still had control of the military while he was being operated on.
Let me just put it very simply. Back when I was stationed at Fort Bragg, Lloyd Austin was a brigade commander in the 82nd Airborne Division. He was a full colonel command the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment. If Lloyd Austin had just taken off and disappeared for 4 or 5 days and not told the commanding general of the 82nd Airborne Division, and on top of that, if his executive officer of that brigade, the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, was out of the country on vacation, Lloyd Austin would have been relieved of command because he was AWOL, away without leave. So I do not understand why that doesn't apply here, and I do not understand why he believes that he could just do that without any consequences or ramifications. He should be relieved of his duties as Secretary of Defense because he is part of the National Security Council, and he was absent. And he put this country at risk, bottom line. And if this had been someone in the Trump administration that did something like that, you can just imagine.
Oh,
yeah, it would have gone crazy. I wanted to also ask you, because you wrote a really great Substack, and one of the things you talked about was Republicans struggle with messaging. And then, of course, Ronna McDaniel, the other breaking news, says she's going to, step down after South Carolina. So I lay it at her feet too. Why do we struggle with messaging when I think we're the party that gets it right with, choosing life and everything else that we choose?
I just think that Republican, as in the party structure, whatever you want to call it, they don't have a killer instinct. They don't have the instinct that the left has, that you're going to go after your opposition. And we don't find the gaps and we don't exploit them. And when you look at Sunday morning talk show programs, Democrats will come out there and all of them say the exact same thing, almost to the same vowel and consonant. But Republicans will be on these Sunday talk shows and be all over the place. Like I said, why would you have a Republican that is joining with Chuck Schumer on this stupidity called border security legislation, instead of standing up and saying, here are the executive actions that Joe Biden took that reverse all of the policies on the border. We have the most secure border in like the past 45 to 50 years. Now we have the worst situation on our border that we've ever seen in the history of this country. So I do not understand why they can't get on the same sheet of music. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's, again, this sense of trying to appease others, wanting to be liked by, the leftist media. That's never going to happen. But Republicans are going to have to make a clear delineation between who they are, their principles and values, and the progressive socialists.
So true. And how's your race going for Dallas chairman of the GOP, Colonel West?
Well, that's what it's all about. I mean, here we are in the 8th or 9th largest county metroplex in the country, and you do not have a single Republican on the Dallas County elected leadership. And that's in Texas, okay? And we're going into the 2024 cycle, and 75% of the countywide elections in Dallas County are unopposed. 73% of the judicial elections in Dallas County are unopposed. We have less than 25% precinct chairs that cover the voting precincts in Dallas County. So we have to do something different. But yet there are some people that here in Dallas County believe that that's success and that everything is going fine. George Soros has already dumped $200,000 into Dallas County because they believe that this is this is the path. Dallas County is the path for them to flip Texas. And if you flip Texas in the presidential election cycle, it's done. Donald Trump only won Texas by 6 percentage points 4 years ago. So they think that between Dallas County and 2 other counties, that's what they're focusing on here in this cycle, Soros, that they can make up that 6 percentage points and they can win Texas.
Well, I'm so glad you're in the trenches there.
So how's this border dispute with Governor Abbott and the Biden administration working out, where they want to, I guess the feds want to come in and cut all the razor wire, and Texas is saying go to hell. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, let me put this into perspective. The state of Texas shares 1,249 miles with Mexico. This whole razor wire thing, we're only talking about 48 to 49 miles, just the same as the buoys that were out there in the Rio Grande, maybe 800 meters, 1,000 meters. So we're not talking about the large swath of the border happening. And I think that this is about our sovereignty. I'm glad to see that Governor Abbott has finally stepped up. He should have done this back in 2021 when Biden started to unravel our border security. But, we still have people that are coming in and getting into this country. What I would like people to remember is that there's a whole wide open space out in West Texas, Brewster County, Big Bend Mountains. That's where the bad people are coming across, the ones that don't want to be detected. Everyone is focusing on this little small area, like you say, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, what have you, and that's what the cartels want you to do. But yet, in other places where it's really unsecured out there in rough terrain, the single-age military males are really coming across. The drug trafficking really coming across. The terrorist elements really coming across. So we're getting distracted on about a 50 to 100-mile front of a 1,249-mile front.
Well, I don't think Americans know that. Well, I do want to transition because you're going to be coming to the Panhandle for the Warrior Beach Retreat Salute, and we're going to honor 8 combat wounded veterans, and their spouses will be here. We'll be taking care of them. They get to go fishing, and the wives get a spa day, and you are our official guest speaker, and I'm going to drive with you in the parade. We're going to have an F-35 flyby. There's police escorts everywhere. We are so excited to host you, Colonel West, and you're graciously coming to do this for the vets. We can't thank you enough.
Well, look, it's my honor. I am a veteran. My dad served in World War II. My father-in-law served in Vietnam. My older brother served in Vietnam. We are a family of veterans, and so this is important to me. America has to honor and cherish the men and women who are willing to make the last full measure of devotion for them. And I will tell you also, you know me, I still get up early in the morning to do my morning PT, a little run, push up the crunches. So maybe we can have a little thing. People can come out and run with the old Colonel. I just turned 63 this past Wednesday.
Well, I saw that with your weapon you got on Instagram, the little patriotic big gun there. Okay. Well, I will rally people to do that with you. And the billboards are all over town. We've been playing radio ads everywhere. So we really want to fill the First Baptist Church. It's Thursday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. Yep. And it's free for the ceremony when you're going to be talking. And so we are just so excited. But who are you rooting for the Super Bowl? Who are your grandsons? What jerseys are they wearing, Colonel West?
Look, I mean, this is Dallas, Texas, man. The Cowboys just let everyone down, and then I'm from Atlanta, so I mean, this is Patriots swamp. Look, all I care is I do not want to watch Taylor Swift all during the Super Bowl.
Really? Because Shaq...
I'm rooting against Taylor Swift, okay?
Well, Shaq just came out and said he wants to meet Taylor Swift, and he was a Dallas man too, Colonel West. But, okay, well, poor Taylor Swift's going to be crying on her private jet back from Tokyo to come to the game. But anyways.
Carbon along the way, by the way. All that CO.
Well, thanks for the coming on Veronica Live. And when is your race? When is your race? What's the date for the GOP election for you?
Yeah, sure. Texas has a very early primary season, so the early voting will start the 20th of February all the way through the 1st of March, and then Election Day is Super Tuesday, the first Tuesday in March, which is the 5th.
All right. Well, elections matter, Colonel West, and you are America's Patriot.
And they can go to west4dallas.com, west4dallas.com.
All right. Well, we'll see you in a couple weeks here in the Panhandle. And God bless you, Colonel West, and thanks for joining Veronica Live this morning.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll be right back on Veronica Live.